most fans of the planet, hottest entertainment with an edge. I'm Jaime En Fuego, and I am here to welcome you to a Fresca Fuego review here on Enfuegotainment. How many times did I just say Fuego now? Holy shnikes, y'all. But I am so very stoked to have you here checking out this review of mine for The Kid Who Would Be King. That's right, Joe Cornish, y'all, writer and director of a small 2011 film that I'm sad that a lot of people are still finding the time to discover, called Attack the Block. It had a young John Boyega in it. That's right, Finn from the Star Wars stuff. And you're seeing me wearing this particular shirt because I just got done filming on the 24th of January here, the review of The Phantom Menace, because I'm going through every single Star Wars film. But that is not what I'm here to talk about today. I am here to talk about the second directorial effort from Cornish, The Kid Who Would Be King, that just came out for this upcoming weekend. And you know, on the surface level, you may be thinking, this film, it's super kid, super cheese, blah blah whatever, but I must admit, when I checked out the trailer, which I did specifically because I knew that Cornish was directing it, I was like, you know, this looks like it has a small bit of potential to be more than just your typical kiddie fare. And I was especially confident because of his abilities. I mean, Attack the Block was about, it was low budge, you know, low budge British film, and it's about an alien invasion of sorts that happens on a small scale. So it's at like an apartment complex, you know, like I don't know if they call them flats. It's been a couple of years since I've seen it, but it was inventive, it was funny, and it was like this gang, these gang kids basically, you know, all banding together to go against these invading creatures. And so I thought the movie was awesome. And so based on just those sensibilities and the balancing of a good young cast, albeit this one is a little bit younger, obviously, being, you know, kids in like grammar school, I guess, or whatever they call it, you know, over on the other side of the pond. But so basically, with the potential of Attack the Block, even though he was going a little bit younger and obviously maybe a little bit more mainstream, I was still confident, and I was cool with him obviously getting a bigger budget. And I love fantasy, you know, I love Harry Potter stuff, and I love The Lord of the Rings, and there is meta awareness and jokes about those particular films, you know, here in The Kid Who Would Be King. And so, always here on Enfuegotainment, I like to talk about the bueno, the malo, and the feo, so the good, the bad, and the ugly. And here going forward in my renewed coverage on this channel for 2019, I will be giving a grade at the end as well. So I will say, if it's feo, 1 star. If it's malo, 2 stars. If it's bueno, 3 stars. If it's fuego, 4 stars. And if that shizzle is en fuego, wait, yeah, we're talking 5 stizzars or 5 flaming fireballs of film fracker, I don't know. I'm just trying to toss in as much alliteration here as possible. So, to talk about the bueno, the good of this film, the effects look pretty damn good, I gotta say. And I mean, especially with some of the villainousness, just to set the precedent, we get this really cool animated sequence in the opening credits of the film, and it almost looks like, you know, hand-drawn, almost like illustrations come to life. So it's not like CG and, you know, 3D animation, anything like that, although there is like some 3D sensibility to it. But it basically looks like moving pictures from, you know, the kind of Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table book that you would sit down and read as a kid at school. And that is eventually what the book reveals itself to. But it gives you like just a quick little refresher on the history of the Sword in the Stone, and, you know, Arthur pulling it out, being of that descendant blood to be able to do it, you know, basically making amends with his enemies and uniting the different kingdoms of Britain to go against, you know, this half-sister of his who thinks that she has right to this sword. And so it's narrated splendidly by Patrick Stewart, Sir Patrick Stewart, or maybe it's just Sir Ian McKellen. I don't know, those two homies hang out all the damn time. But it's a great looking film. When we get the villainousness, you know, the CG is pretty on point and looks damn good, and it gives just a little bit more edge and menace to it than you see in your average, you know, I guess family-friendly children's fantasy film, which is what this is. And, you know, all of the kids are really good. I have to say, I was standing there scratching my head for a moment when I see one of the bullies, and you see him in the trailer. It just didn't click with me. I'm like, Tom Taylor, why does that name sound familiar? Tom Taylor. Oh yeah, it's Jake Chambers from that shiznitty, craptastical Dark Tower film. He looked the part of Jake Chambers. He didn't really embody Jake Chambers for me, and it was really funny when you saw certain parts in the DT film where his voice was kind of like a different register a little bit, because you can tell a kid was going through puberty. But so he's in this, and it's written, but you know, he plays the Lancelot type character and stuff. But I must admit, you know, the Andy kid, who is the descendant of sorts, who you know, is the one able to pull the sword out, he's great. Betters, his sidekick buddy, is really cool. Although it is kind of funny because they do have a similar dynamic that you know, Peter Parker and his buddy have in Homecoming, and we've seen this not just. I don't know. It's a familiar dynamic, but it works well here. The girl who plays Kay is great. So honestly, his little crew that he assembles after pulling the sword out in this construction site of sorts. Although it makes you wonder, how could they have been breaking down all this stuff and they just don't happen to see the sword? There is an essence in this where it's a little bit of check your brain in. It is a fantasy family film and so on and so forth. But yeah, the script is surprisingly tight and funny, and most of the jokes land, or at least they landed pretty well in my estimation. They really hit the mark. And so yeah, the ensemble was good. The script, well, in the third act, I guess I'll get to, you know, a few things, because as much as I did really enjoy this film, it's not without, you know, its occasional problems here or there, but I did really find a ton to like in this, you know. And granted, don't go in expecting anything beyond a very well-made and sharp and fun, you know, family fantasy film, you know. I mean, for Attack the Block was R-rated, and for a couple moments in it and a few bits of language here and there and stuff, it was rightfully R-rated. So I mean, this is not that. So don't go in expecting that. But if you go in, I kind of got the same sort of enjoyment out of this as I did from Eli Roth's The House with the Clock in Its Walls, although I must admit I like this much better. So yeah, a lot of it landed for me. A whole lot of it landed, and I liked this spin. I honestly really liked this modern spin on the classic tale. So a lot to enjoy here. If I'm going to jump into MALO, if I'm going to jump into anything bad about it, you know, seeing kids in some of these scenarios, especially for the sheer fact that they had to fight down, and you know, the adults are all disappearing. So I don't know. There are a few instances, especially where the kids are quarreling, you know, amongst themselves as they're trying to find the common ground and everything, because, you know, Andy, the kid who was able to pull the sword out, you know, him and Jake Chambers, him and Lancelot, they butt heads, you know, which you know, happens in various iterations of this story, you know, in the medieval tellings as well and stuff like that. There is kind of a bit of rivalry, if I recall correctly, and that's case point here. But when it's like a 12-year-old and like a 15, 16-year-old kid, and they're seriously fighting with deadly weapons and swinging at each other, and they could potentially, if landing these blows, maim, horribly injure or kill each other, it was a little much. And also, I mean, the third act definitely kind of it fell into some tropiness and just dragged a little bit, and you could kind of, the stakes didn't really feel that high, you know. You didn't necessarily, and that's not to say that, you know, we don't have moments of peril and stuff, but nothing really ever felt like it was like anything was that dire, and that there wasn't potentially a way, without spoiling stuff, for everything to end up okay. But there is some revelations about certain characters and the nature of them, certain things that are told to them, especially about like loved ones, I guess, you know, family, friends, without getting into too much of it. So I mean, it's not all predictable, just to put it that way. But yeah, one thing I didn't mention in the good that's so good is the portrayal of Merlin in this, the kid who acts as him. And this is a bueno backtrack, okay? Merton, as I think I remember him calling himself in it. But man, the British dude, young man I should say, because he's supposedly playing like, you know, somebody still in like teens, high school, or whatever and stuff. He's so tall and lanky, and yet he's funny, and you know, his whole little spell casting thing that he does is dope. And so yeah, it's really tough to find a lot of bad, at least for me personally, in this movie. Once again, if you go into it knowing what you're going to expect. Now granted, I don't know, it's really tough for me to criticize the hell out of this movie when it is a familiar tale. You know, I guess maybe that's one thing, the fact, and that did probably add to the essence of predictability at times, but I can't really point at any performances being particularly bad. I mean, granted, the mom is a little on the wooden side, but this is where I'm really having to grasp at straws to find anything that I particularly disliked about this movie. You know, there was some okayness, you know, here and there, but for the most part, the malo, the bad, is really not heavily prevalent here. It's just not. I guess the feo, the ugly, would be I mean, maybe the sheer fact that you will have people going into this that were fans of Attack the Block wanting something a little edgier, a little more than it's intended to be, and just probably wishing that, you know, Cornish would tackle more material like that. I mean, in the meantime, he has worked on drafts of the Ant-Man script when Edgar Wright, I believe, was still attached. He worked on The Adventures of Tintin, the first one of that. There was supposedly going to be more of those. We haven't heard anything yet. There is a pretty ugly joke that well, I guess it's not super spoilery, but basically to be able to maintain a particular form without having to revert to his owl, you know, just kind of shape and stuff, Merlin basically has to track down it's like beaver urine, squashed up beetles. It's like all these, it's like three different really nasty things, and he tracks down this like KFC type place, you know, and some sort of Americanized looking, fried chicken and pizza and whatever, and he's taking up residence there because he's like, yes, I found all three of these things from my magic potion of revival in the food here, and you're just like, oh, that's pretty grody, but probably not very far from the truth. Oh, and it was like bones or something like that. So he's like, yeah, these chicken nuggets are totally made from crushed up bones and leftover pieces of chicken carcasses. And so, I mean, and also, you know, if we're talking about some good ugliness, because here on Enfuegotainment, feo can be some good ugly, some bad ugly, you know, ugliness behind the scenes, whatever. I just always kind of tailor it to the coverage of the particular film. Oh, I'm trying to remember the name of the villainous half-sister, and unfortunately it is totally eluding me, but she's pretty of the ugliness, of the nasty side, and I guess it is nasty just to have, once again, you know, these young kids in these scenes of ugly peril fighting these like hellfiery like demon monsters on horses. But that backtracks a little bit to maybe one of the setbacks of the film is just the unbelievability of the fact that all of these untrained children are suddenly gonna be able to take down these like horse riding fiery demons from the depths of hell. I don't know, once again, you have to look at it as childhood escapism, and I truly believe and contend here, everybody, that if you go in with the right frame of mind, you will find a fun family fantasy here that has a good cast with great chemistry. And anytime as an adult in my 30s that I go to a children's movie, or this isn't like a children's movie, you know, this is you know, like young kid, early teenager, whatever, geared towards, I think, but a movie like this succeeds when adults can still have that escapist aspect and feel like kids when they're watching it, and that is honestly what The Kid Who Would Be King did for me. So Joe Cornish, bravissimo, dude. You did a damn good job with your directorial follow-up here, and I will say this film is fuego. It's 4 fiery film balls or whatever. It's a Fuego family film. So yes, I give it 4, yo. So yeah, I extend a grande gracias once more to everybody who tuned in to this Fresca Fuego film review that I do on Fridays here from now on going forward. It will be a new release of some sort. I also have on the 24th of every month leading up to the release of episode 9, I am doing a retro Star Wars review. I just put up my Phantom Menace review. Next month will be Attack of the Clones. March will be the Revenge of the Sith, and then I'm going to segue into, I'm doing everything in chronological order, not as far as release, but as far as timeline goes. So I'm going to hit Rogue One, I'm going to hit Solo, I'm going to hit the original trilogy, I'm even going to sneak in some Ewok films, maybe even some animated Clone Wars. How about them apples? I'll also be checking out 7 and 8 again as well as we approach the December release of episode 9. And yeah, Jaime En Fuego. 'Tis I have been. You can find me on all social media sectors, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, here on YouTube, where I'm segueing back into doing a Thursday Retro Fuego review, a Fresca Friday review, as I mentioned, and then I'm sprinkling around some Enfuegotainment live kind of podcast news and different topic discussions. So yes, please subscribe, hit the bell thing-a-ling here so you get notifications about any time I put up new content. And also, I would be remiss if I did not mention the horror show, where you can find me even more often than here on Enfuegotainment. That is my YouTube mainstay, where we do trailer reactions, film reviews, video game Let's Plays, convention coverage. We're going to be at Mad Monster Charlotte next month, the 22nd through the 24th. We are very excited about that. We are at youtube.com/The Horror Show channel. We do not consider ourselves the best horror YouTubers on the planet, but we aspire to be the most prolific and give you the most comprehensive coverage under the horror umbrella. So, yes! Thanks so very much, everyone, once again. Danka, arigato, merci, and however else you say thank you across the planet, say thank you. It means a lot that you've tuned into this, and until we meet again, I say hasta luego, Cinemigos. I hope that we reconnect here on the interwebs sooner rather than later. So until then, adios! But don't be strangers.